Hi everyone, am I audible? So, hello, am I audible? Please confirm by typing in the chat box. Great. So let's start the session in few minutes so that everyone can join. Fine. So, hi everyone. Let's start the session. Hmm. So, hi everyone. Is my screen visible? Anyone please confirm? Great. So let's start this session. So I'm Rupesh Kumar. Today is 7th March, and these sessions are held every Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. Right? Yeah. So again, I will reiterate the rules for this session. So in this session, I have some practice problem solvings for you guys from the topic that has been covered in the NPTEL lecture for this week. So I hope every one of you have gone through those lectures, and yeah, so I will be solving this MCQ questions and some programming problems with you guys. And while I'm solving the questions, if you face any difficulty, if you have any doubts, you can raise queries by typing in the chat box. So you can't use your mic to speak something to me. The only way you can communicate with me is by typing your queries into the chat box. Fine. At any instant, if you face any technical difficulties, such as the text is not visible, the screen is not visible, or I am not audible, then you can just type in the chat box. So let's start the session. Fine. So array passed as an argument to a function is interpreted as. So this is question number one. So every one of you, are you familiar with functions in C? So I suppose every one of you is familiar with functions in C. So the question is, let's say you are given a C function and you want to pass an array to the function. Then how is the array interpreted by the function? So it is essentially interpreted as the address of the first element of the array. Fine. So option C. How, for example, I'm declaring an integer array. Let's say I have integer array containing 10 elements. Fine. And let's say I've defined some function, void find array sum, and you pass some array to this function. Then the question is, how will you interpret this array for this function? Guys, so this is basically whatever you get in the variable ARR. This will be containing the address of the first element in the array. Fine. Fine, everyone. Is this clear? Anyone do have any doubts? So basically, what error contains here? the pointer to the first value in the array. So basically, it contains the address to this value 1. Fine. If you have any queries, please type in the chat box. So it contains the address to the first value in the array. I guess no one has any doubts. So let's move on to the second question. Application of multi-dimensional array is anyone? Everyone, are you familiar with the concept of multi-dimensional arrays in C? Please type in the chat box. So yeah, you can use multi-dimensional arrays to store matrices. Fine. So for example, if you want to store a matrix in your program, you can use these multi-dimensional arrays. Fine. So like this is a when you see this multi-dimensional array, this is a matrix of dimensions 3 cross 3. Fine. So this is a matrix of dimensions 3 cross 3. And how to use two-dimensional array in C to store this matrix? You can simply declare an array int arr. Your first bracket, you define the number of rows, and the second bracket and define the number of columns. So this way you can define an array, two-dimensional array to store a matrix of dimensions 3 cross 3. Fine, everyone. Now, let's say you have a matrix. So what can you do? Can you do matrix multiplication? Yes, you can do. So you can use multi-dimensional array to do matrix multiplication. Then finding the minimum spanning tree. Everyone, are you familiar with the concept of minimum spanning tree? So let's say you are given a tree data structure. So a tree looks like this, something like this. Right? So at each node, you store some values into the tree. And you want the minimum spanning tree of the tree, basically, from the node A to node B. So how you can use arrays? You can create adjacency list, and then from there you can continue with finding the minimum spanning tree. So yeah, this is also true. So finding connectivity between nodes. Yeah, you can find the connectivity between nodes in a graph using arrays, multidimensional arrays. How? You can store the graph as a adjacency list in a matrix form, and then you can do this. Fine. So the correct answer is option D, all of the mentioned. Fine, everyone. Do you have any doubts? So let's say you are given a graph. For example, let me create a simple graph. So let us see this, how to do this. So let's say you have a graph uh, between these nodes that goes like this. Okay. Oh, fine. Hmm. So let's say you have this graph with these values A, B, C, E, E. Fine. So these are the nodes, and now you want to find the connectivity between nodes A and C. Are the nodes A and C connected? Fine. So how to do this? So it's simple. So let's say we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 entries on in our matrix, in our graph, 5 nodes. So let's create a matrix of dimensions 5 x 5. So first column, second column, third column, fourth column, and fifth column. Yeah, let's create this matrix. Let's create. You should be familiar with the concept of adjacency matrix to do this. 2, 3, fine. So these each column are for the each of these nodes. So basically representing if the nodes are adjacent to each other or not. Okay. Fine. So these are the this is essentially so A is not, so all these diagonal elements will be 0. So I've just put a straight line to represent them 0. So basically A is not diagonal to itself. So let's ignore A here, something like this. And now, for example, in A, for the entry A comma B, there will be a value of 1. Why 1? Because A and B are adjacent. Then A and C, they are not adjacent. So you will put 0. A and D not adjacent. Similarly, A and D not adjacent. A and D are adjacent. So you will put 1 there. So you have to put 1 here. Similarly, you can build the adjacency graph for B also. B and A are adjacent. B and C are adjacent, and others are 0. Fine. Now C and B are adjacent, and that's it. And then D is adjacent with A and E. And then E is adjacent with D only. Fine. So this is the adjacency graph. Now what you need to do, you just need to check if two nodes are connected or not. So how to check that? So let's say I want to check A and C. So go to A's adjacent element, anyone. So you go to B, and then you go to the adjacency matrix list of B. B, you can see B is adjacent with C. So yeah, A has a connectivity with the node C. So this is how you do this. Fine. Is this clear? Yashwant, is this clear? Yashwant, is this clear? How to use two-dimensional matrices to find the connectivity? Yeah, great. So Great. So what, let's move on to the next question. What is the output of the following C code? So int main. So by now, every one of you is familiar with these structs. Basically, hashtag include is used to include libraries in C, and then main is the function that is first run by the compiler, GCC compiler, when you compile it. So now you declare a two-dimensional array named ARY. It is belongs to a data type int, and it has two rows and three columns. And then in the second line, you are saying ARY bracket equals to this. So this is incorrect. It will give a compilation error, because whenever you want to create two-dimensional arrays, you have to declare the number of columns. Fine. And in a declaration line, you can see there are no number of columns defined, so this will give an error. Fine. So option A is correct. So do you have any doubts in this? Many of you are answering B and C. Yes, huh. So you have to mandatorily put in a second, put in the number of columns in this array. Basically, you have to put in the value here. Otherwise, there will be an issue. Fine. So this is basically what is the syntax of 2D array looks like in C. Anyone do you have any doubts in this question? Great. So someone is saying, please explain the question again. Jasleen Roar, do you have this doubt with this? Which question you are asking? So this is basically a syntax of two-dimensional arrays in C. So whenever you declare two-dimensional arrays, you need to define the number of columns. You have to fill in the number of entries in the second box. And in this case, you can see the box is empty. So this gives an error. So basically, you are trying to access the entries, no? And you are not passing any row and column index. So it will give an error. So that is the issue with this problem. Fine. So this will give an compilation error. Is this clear, Pragati? Great. So let's move on to the next question. So what will be output of this following program? Fine. So we are including the standard IO library and the string library. And then we are inside the main function int main. And we have declared a character pre. So basically it's a string. Character of arrays form a string. So any string, any character of arrays terminated by \0 character forms a string. So yeah, then you are declaring a character t and then integer variables I and j. So now you are saying for I, you are running a for loop for int I equals to 0, j is equals to length of p. So strlen is a function that computes, returns the number of characters in a string. So I hope you are familiar with the strlen function. Returns fine everyone. So strlen basically returns the length of a string, number of characters in a string. Fine. And then what you are saying, while I is less than j, increment I plus plus, run the loops. Fine. So initially t equals to p at I. So I is 0 basically here. So this means t becomes p at 0, which is a. Now, what is p at 0? This is what this line is doing. It is saying p at 0 is equals to p at j minus I. So j minus I is basically j is strlen. So what is the length of this string? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it will be 10 minus I. I is with 0. So 10. So what is this quantity? This will be \0. Why this will be \0? Because char p is essentially stored as a character array like this. I G N M E N E S. Fine. So this is how this character P is stored. This is an array of characters containing 10 values from A to T. So these are 10 characters, 9 characters basically. And after that, these are 10 characters. Yeah. Going from indexes 0 to 9. And at the 10th index, you will find that \0 is stored. So basically P at 10, P at 0 becomes \0. So P at 0 is basically \0 now. 0. And then you do something else and you keep assigning the values for until this loop condition is true. And then you print f percentage s and p. What will be the output? Nothing will be printed. Everyone, do you know this? Why this will happen? See, so nothing will be printed. Why? Because the first character in the string p will be \0, and the C, for the C compiler, whenever you pass the percentage as string format specifier, it finds the first white space, which can be a blank space, any line change character such as \n or \0, these type of characters, and then it terminates the string at that point itself. It does not process the strings after that character. Now, in the after while you are updating the string p, in this for loop, you assign the first value in the string array character array to be backslash 0, which is a white space. So what this printf statement does, it prints nothing because it says that the string is ended before it even began, and then program exits. So that's why it will print nothing. Fine, everyone. Do you have any doubts with this problem? So no one has any doubts. Shall we proceed? So whenever you are dealing with character strings, pay attention to what format specifier you are passing and what is present in the how the string is being interpreted by the compiler. So string is being interpreted by the compiler as an array of characters, and the array ends where backslash 0 is obtained, right? Is present. So yeah. So let's move on to the next question. What will the output for this program? So you have include the standard IO library stdio.h, and then we have the main function. And you are declaring a two-dimensional array, 1, 2, 3, 4. Two-dimensional array of dimensions 2, comma 3. Fine. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's an array of dimensions. Let's create this array. H2, comma 3. Rows, 3 columns. Fine. And now we all know that the string arrays in C are stored in row major order. Everyone, do you know this? So are stored in row major order in C. So what is row major order? So basically, whenever you fill in the entries in the array, they will first the first and row will be filled, and then the second row will be filled. So this is how rows will be filled in the array. Fine. So now there is an array containing 6 elements, but you are initializing only 4 elements here. So how the array will be entered? The array will be filled as, so you will fill in the first row give from the given entries. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Now you don't have the remaining 2 values. So what C will do? It will insert 0 here. So this will be the final array that you will get. This is the final two-dimensional array that you get when you declare this variable array A and assign the value 1, 2, 3, 4 to this. Fine. So this is the variable array A. Now for int I equals to 0, I is less than 2. So you are running a loop, for loop. So for int I equals to 0, I is less than 2, I plus plus. Then inside that body of loop, you are running another loop for j equals to z2, j is less than equals to 0, j minus minus. So this is a nested loop. And you can see there are no curly brackets here, but why we don't we need it here? Because we all know that if you don't have a block that shows that block specifying the scope of any loop or any if else statements, then the next line is only the next line is under that its scope. So for the top for loop, the next for loop will be under its scope, and then inside the for loop you are printing the values, integer values using the format subscribe percent d and values a at I comma j. Fine. So for I equals to 0, the inner loop will run two times. For j, so from j equals to 2 to 0. So what it will be printing? So how would this loop look like? So first it will be printing a at I is 0 and j is 2. So a at 0 comma 2. Then it will print a at j becomes 1. So it will print j at 1 comma 0 comma 1 comma 1. Then again j becomes 0. So it will print a at 0 0. Fine. Now when I becomes 2, then it again start printing the values. I becomes 1. So it will print a at 1 comma 2. So j again starts from 0, 2 to 1, 2 to 0. So this is how it will printing the values. Print a at 1 comma 1. Then print a at 1 comma 0. 0. So now what you have to do, you have to just take from this array, take the values and write them here. So what is a at 0 comma 2? So let me write the row and column indices. So this is row index 0, row index 1. This is column index 0, column index 1, and column index 2. Fine. So what is the value? A at 0 comma 2, 0 comma 2 is 3. Then a at 0 comma 1, 0 comma 1 is 2. Then a at 0 comma 0, which is 1, 3 to 1. Then a at 1 comma 2, 1 comma 2 contains the value 0. Then a at 1 comma 1, it again is 0. And lastly a at 1 comma 0, which is 4. So this will be the output. So what did we saw in this program? In this we saw that how can we store store values in two-dimensional arrays, and since we were given only partial values for that array, we used a concept that the arrays values are stored in a row major order. So we use that row major order to fill the entries of this array, partial array, and then the remaining entries were filled with zeros. And then finally, we were iterating through the array. So this is how you can iterate through the matrices stored in form of array, two-dimensional arrays in C using two for loops, nested for loops. And then we were printing those values. Fine. Anyone do you have any doubts? Anyone do you have any doubts? Fine. So now you should be familiar with the concept of two-dimensional arrays in C, how you can use them. Shall we proceed? Great. So let's move on to the next question. Question number 7. Question number 6. So what will be the output of this program? So we are including the standard IO library, and then the string library, hashtag include string.h. And then we'll be able to use the standard IO and string functions. And then we are declaring the main function int main. And inside the main block, I'm doing some operations. So let's look at this. So now I'm declaring a character array str1 having maximum buffer length of 20, and assigning the string hello to it. Then again, I'm declaring str2, then again length 20, and assigning the character string world to it. Fine, everyone. So yeah, let me write str1 equals to hello world. And pay attention that this first character in the strings str2 is a space character. Fine. So there's a blank space here. Now I'm trying to print string. Okay, fine. So I'm passing the foreign specifier percentage s. Then I'm passing the value that needs to be printed. So let's look at this value. What is this value? So I'm calling the function strcopy, and inside this function, what I'm doing, I'm trying to copy something into the string str2. So what is that value that I want to copy here? It is specified by the second argument of this function strcopy, and this argument says we want to print, copy the value str value that is a return of the that is obtained by that is the return value from the function strcat, or called over the values str1 and str2. So let's take out this function strcat of str1 comma str2. Fine. So what will be this value? Anyone? So it is basically concatenating the two strings. So it will return hello, then add the second string hello world, and there is a space in the second character, a second string, which is str2. So it becomes hello followed by a space and then a word. So this is the output of this function strcat, str1, str2. So what does strcat does? Strcat takes two strings. So this is str1. Yeah, str1. And then we have str some string str2, str2. And what it does is it creates a new string of double the length of these two strings. And in the first of that string, it puts in str1. And in the second of that string, it puts str2. And this is how you get the result of strcat. Fine. So now we have strcat. Now we are calling strcopy over str2. So now it becomes strcopy cpy over the string 2. What is the value I want to copy here? I want to copy the string hello space world. So now str2 will contain the values hello world. And now I am printing this value. So str, I am printing the return of this value. So it will return print hello world. Fine. So option D is correct. Anyone, do you have any doubts in this program? If you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. सक्षम आ गया डली. So I guess no one has any doubts. So let's move on to the next question. So what will be the output of this program? So now again, I'm including the std standard IO library, and then I'm inside the main function. So inside the main function, I'm declaring integer variable I and the character string A, and I'm assigning it to a blank string. And now I'm saying printf percentage as A, and then it prints the string is empty, else printf the string is not empty. So what is the output of this program? Fine, everyone. So how to approach this problem? So let's see. So what A contains right now? So it's a blank string. So this essentially means the character array A contains the value backslash zero null string. So it is basically a null string. So you when you call so basically the length of the string is one containing one character, which is backslash zero. Now you are calling if printf percentage as A. So now first, so we all know that the if is a conditional statement and it requires a boolean as an input to process. If it's true, then then the section in of the code that is specified under scope will be executed. Otherwise, the next section will be executed. So let's look at what this printf returns, and then only we can proceed from there. So what does printf returns? Returns the number of characters printed on the screen. Fine. So what does printf do? It returns the number of characters printed on the screen. So in this, what you are printing the character array A, which contains one null character. So it should return one here. So returns one. So what is one? When you talk about the value one, when you assign a value one to a Boolean operator, what it basically resembles to, it transforms to the Boolean value true. So it becomes the condition if true. If true. Okay, yeah. So it returns the number of characters. Acha, number of characters is zero here. Yeah. So number of characters is zero here, because it only contains the null character. So it is not when you call strlen over a, you will get value zero. So it will print nothing on the screen. So yeah, there was a mistake by my side. Yeah, it will print nothing on the screen. So this will return zero. So what is the value zero in for booleans in C? So zero basically means false statements in C. So if false, printf the string is empty. So if false, so this part will not be executed. So else part will be executed, which says printf the string is not empty. So the correct answer would be option B. B string is not empty. Fine. So this problem requires you to understand the behavior of printf function and if statement. Then you can solve this problem. So what this printf does here is returns the number of characters that are displayed on the screen, printed on the screen, which is standard output buffer. And then if the number of character is non-zero, then it should print the condition becomes true. But since the number of characters in the string A is blank and is zero, it returns false. So the else part gets executed. Fine, everyone. Do you have any doubts? Please type in the chat box. Am I audible? Great. So, do you have anyone? Do you have any doubts? Great. So let's move on to the next question. So what is the output of the following C program? So again, we are using standard IO. So before solving this program, I want to ask you guys, are you familiar with the put char function? Anyone? Do you know what is the put char function? It's the function that character value and to the output stream. Fine. By default, it's your screen, terminal Windows display screen. So it puts characters onto the display screen. Fine. So let's say if I say put char and pass the character A. So what it will do? It will print A. To the A. Fine. So now if you have this knowledge, let's try to solve this problem. So we have this main function, int main. Then I'm declaring variable int I equals to 0 and character C. Now I am creating a string, character string char str, and assigning the value programming language to it. Now, while str at I is not equals to blank character, space character. So this is space character. Everyone, please pay attention. So this condition where I'm checking which character is this, this is the space character basically. So this is checking if this is a space character, fine. So I think this should be visible to you guys. This is essentially checking for space. Fine, everyone. Now, while string at I is not equal to space, what you have to do? You have to, so basically str at I is not a blank space. What you have to do? You have to put char to upper. So everyone, are you familiar with the to upper function? Converts lowercase characters to uppercase. For example, to upper of A is basically A, and also to upper of A is also A. Fine. So it converts any lowercase character to uppercase character. So now I'm printing on screen some character. What is that character? It is returned by the function to upper str at I. So let's see what is the value of I and str at I. So I is basically 0 here initially. So str at 0 is P. So it prints P on the screen. So let's track it. So P is printed. Fine. Now what you do? You increment I by 1. So this is I plus plus here. So you increment, so I becomes 2, 1 here. So now when I is 1, yeah, so while when I is 1, what is the value str at 1? So str at 1 is basically R. Now what is the value of 2 upper R? Of R is basically capital R. So what it does, it prints capital R onto the screen. So let's try put this on the screen. So PR. Now again, I becomes 3, 2. So what is string at 2? String as 2 is 0. O basically. str at 2 is basically O here. So 2 upper of O is capital O. So it puts capital O onto the screen. So it prints PRO. Now I becomes 3. 3 is basically str at 3 is basically G, small g, and 2 upper of small g is basically capital G. And it puts this character onto the screen. So it becomes PROG. Then I becomes 4. and it goes on until I is becomes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. When I becomes 10, so when I is 10, str at 10 is G again, and 2 upper will be G, and it would have printed programming. After this, when I becomes 11, equals to 11, when I is 11, str at I is blank space. Fine. So the loop exits and program exits. So what is printed on the screen? Programming. So what is the correct answer? Option C. Programming will be printed on the screen. Everyone, is this clear to you? Do you have any doubts in this program? If you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. If you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. Yeah, so you want, okay, fine. So now, are you familiar with the function putchar? Rakshita, are you clear? Are you familiar with the function putchar? And then if you are, it basically prints a character onto the screen. Then what is the use of function to upper? To upper is used to convert lowercase characters to uppercase. Now, in this program, what I'm doing, I have a character string that contains a string programming language. And now I am iterating through all the characters present in the string from index 0 until I obtain this blank space character. Fine. And for each I value, so for each character in the string, what I'm doing, I'm converting it to uppercase and then putting it on the screen, that is printing on the screen. Fine. And this loop goes on until str at I is basically a blank space, which happens at I equals to 11. Then what happens? This loop exits and the program exits, and you will see that the your screen will be showing programming. So this is how this program works. Is this clear, Rakshita? Yashwant, you are saying we can convert lowercase to upper without using loop. So this program is asking you what happens in this program. I'm not saying if this is the only way to convert a lowercase string to uppercase string. Fine. Is this clear? Yashwant, is this clear? So what is the doubt, Yashwant? This program? But this, Acha, you are asking if this is possible. Okay. So best way is to simply run the program. Okay. See. Right. So to upper is a function for characters, so you can't use it directly into string for strings. Fine. Prashant, is this clear? Yashwant, is this clear? So you have to do is character by character. That's what I'm saying. It accepts a character. It does not accept a string. Yashwant, is this clear? Am I audible? Yeah, fine. So you can't do this, whatever you're writing. Fine. Anyone else? Do you have any doubts in this program? Please type in the chat box. So now we'll be solving some programming problems for you guys. So let's start with them. Fine. So right up. So these were some basic problems on arrays and strings in C. So I just want to ask you guys, are you familiar with the concept of functions in C? Because your lecture, this lecture videos also contain functions in C for today's session. So I hope every one of you are familiar with the concept of functions. So anyone please confirm if you are familiar with the concept of functions so we can solve these programming problems. So basic introduction to functions was covered in your lecture series lecture. So I want to cover this. Am I audible? Hello, am I audible? So can anyone just confirm by typing the chat box? Great. So are you familiar with the concept of functions in C? Great. So let's start solving some basic problems on function. Yeah. Is my screen visible? I hope this screen is visible to you guys. Hmm. So, hmm. So let's solve this problem. So I want to write a program that prints hello world in C. So write a function that prints. So now we have to do this programmatically. So now we have to do this by using functions that can be used again and again. So now we can't use write the statement printf inside the main function. So we have to declare a new function. And with every, so this is how you declare functions in C. The syntax is return type followed by function name and then opening and closing brackets and followed by 0 or more arguments separated by commas. Fine. And you have to declare while the function declaration, you have to define the data types of the arguments also. So now we all know that we just want to write a function to print hello world onto the screen and do nothing else. It should not return anything. So what should be the return type of function that returns nothing? Anyone? So first we need to identify the return type that we want our function to return. The data type of the value that our function should return, that we want it to return. So anyone, can you tell me? So you want to return nothing. So what should be the return time for this function? So we already have seen this in earlier sessions also. So a hint is this, how I'm declaring the function main. So again, you can see the function declaration, its name is main. I'm passing no arguments to the function. So thereby opening and closed small brackets with no contents in it. And then I'm defining the return type, which is void here. Everyone, any idea what this void means? Am I audible? Yeah. So do you have any idea on this, what this void means basically? Void means, void here means that the function returns nothing. Fine. So whenever you want to return nothing, whenever you want to clear a data type that stores nothing, you can use void keyword. So now we want to create a function print that prints hello world. So let's create type the return type is void. Now we need a function name. Function name can be any variable name. So let's you call it print hello world. So let's call the function name print hello world. Now the last thing we need is the opening and closing small brackets with 0 or more arguments separated by commas and the data type of each yeah, data type of each element should be specified. Fine. So now we are taking no arguments as input. So let's put it blank. Now in the function, we can call the printer function and print hello world space with a line change backslash and character. Fine. So now we have declared successfully a function that prints hello world without returning anything. What is the next thing we want to do? Anyone? So now you have a function. Now what you want to do with this function? Do you have any idea on the feasibility, on the utility of these functions in C? So like I could have done this inside the main function itself. Do not need to create this function just to print hello world. But why I have created here? Anyone do you have any idea on the advantages of having functions in C? So basically the major advantage of functions in C is the reusability of the functions. So for example, I can use this function again and again. So I am printing it. So this is a function call. So after you have declared a function, you have to use it. And how to use a function? You have to call it inside the main function. So how to call the inside the main function? Just write the function name, which is hello world in our case. Fine. So hello world in our case, followed by opening small bracket and pass the arguments in it. There are no arguments, so we do not pass any argument in this function, and then close the small bracket. So now when you run this program, so everyone, are you with me on this? So we have successfully written a function that returns zero void values and it takes no argument from the user. And we have also called it inside the main function. Everyone, now are you with me on this? Now are you familiar with the idea of declaring functions in C? What should be the return type of those functions? And how to declare, or how to define what the function should do and how to call those functions? Everyone, do you have any doubts? Anyone, please type in the chat box. Now I'll be compiling and running this program. No one has any doubt? Am I audible? Am I audible? Anyone please confirm by typing in the chat box. Great. Yeah. So now we have successfully created our function. Let's go ahead and compile and run it. Fine. So GCC 1.c and then simply run it. And you see it prints hello world on my screen. Everyone, can you see this output? Fine. I hope you can see the output. Now, first question that arises in this case is, what is the utility of these functions? Fine. So what is the utility of these functions? So let's go ahead and see some utility for functions. Fine. So the question is, why functions? So why do we need functions? So let's look at how programs are executed in C. So that will help us to understand why we need functions here. So when you write a program and you compile it, it generates some binary code. Fine. So it is some binary code after compiling your program. And this code gets executed. Fine. It is executed. Then only you see some outputs from your program. Fine. So how does work? Well, like which part of the your code gets converted into this binary code and how it gets executed. So basically what happens in your program, whichever you write in your program, you write a main function, which is a must function for any program that you write in the C programming language. So main function is the driver. It's basically the driver function. It drives any C program. Fine. So inside the main function, you define some statements. So whenever the compiler compiles the program, it generates an output binary code that can be executed by your operating system. But while compiling, it needs to know where is this main function present, because the main function will be the entry point of your program. So this is the entry of your program. Fine. This is the entry point. Fine. After the main function, you have some statements inside the main function, and these get executed sequentially. Fine. Now, let's say you have some another function. You call it func. Fine. Now, why do we need another function? So let's say, so why do we need another function? So let's say we have a function sum. And what it does, given three values A, B, C, it returns their sum. So what is the output of this function? It returns A plus B plus C. Now, let's say we have variables. We want to use this function again and again in our program. So let's say I want to call sum 1, 2, 3. And then again, I want to call this function sum 4, 5, 6. So now what I'm doing the same operation on different sets of variables here. So in the first case, the variables were 1, comma 2, comma 3. In the second case, the variables were 4, comma 5, comma 6. So basically, I want to run a specific segment, program segment, that is A plus B plus C on the variables A plus B plus C with varying values. Fine. So how can we do it? The first way is naive way is writing 1 plus 2 plus 3, then 4 plus 5 plus 6 in the program main function itself. Or we can create one single copy of the program, which is a function sum that takes three variables A, B, C as input and returns A plus B plus C as output. And then we can call this function again and again for separate set of variables. For example, first we call it for the set of variables 1, 2, 3, and then we call it for the set of variables 4, 5, 6. So this is the utility of a function. Fine, everyone. Do you have any doubts? Why do we need functions in C? Now you might say that adding three variables is not that does not require very much lines of code, and it only requires three lines of code. So there is not much redundancy. Yeah, that's true. So you don't actually need a sum function here. It will not help you very much your program, but you will see as we will solve more programming problems on functions, you will see that functions are really useful when the program gets more complex, such as matrix multiplication, matrix vector multiplication, and so on. Fine. So that's why functions are really useful in C. Fine, everyone. Do you have any doubts on why do we need functions in C? Hello, am I audible? So do you have any doubts? Great. So yeah, let's take a break for 5 minutes. Let's meet at 7:26 and then we'll resume the session. Fine. I will solve the remaining programming problems for you guys in the remaining part of this session. So I've already covered all the problems that I had for you guys. Now what I will do, I will solve programming problems for you guys, and then I will take up questions from you guys, whatever doubts if you have in those problems. Fine. So stay tuned for seeing the solutions to these programming problems. Hi everyone, let's resume our session. Am I audible? Great. So let's solve the remaining programming problems. So let us do another problem where our function is returning some value. Fine. Right now we saw a function that simply prints some value onto the screen and it does not return any value. So now let's do some function that takes input as an array input and then returns the sum of all the values present in that integer array. Fine. So let's start. I hope my screen is visible. Mean. So now what we have to do, write a function takes integer array as input and returns the sum of the values in the array. Fine. So first thing, we want to return the sum of integers from an integer array. So what is the return type? It will be int. Everyone, do you agree with this? And then let's give the array function name array sum. Now the mandatory opening and closing small brackets. And inside this bracket, what we have to pass in? We have to pass in the integer array. So how to pass arguments? You have to declare the data type of that argument. So the data type is integer, and then you have to write the variable name ARR, and since it is a variable integer array, you have to pass this square brackets to tell the function that this is an integer array type integer. It contains more than one integer values. Fine. Let us say that our array, all the arrays have size 10. So now what we need to do, we need to add up all the values present in the array and return that value. So let's create a variable sum, assign the value 0 to it, and then start iterating through the array entry. So for int I equals to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus, and what I have to do, sum equals to sum plus ARR at I. Finally, after we have completed this operation, we can return the value of variable sum. Fine, everyone. Do you agree with the implementation of this array sum function? Do you have any doubts? Anyone, do you have any doubts with this function? No one is answering, so I don't know if it is audible. So no one has any doubts. Yeah. So let's call this function. Now, how to call a function that has a return type and takes an input argument? So for that, you have to receive the function output into a variable, and the return type is integer. So I will use an integer variable to receive the output. And AR, give it the name sum of ARR1. So ARR1 sum, and the value to it will be returned by the function array sum. So let's call the function, and the argument as input is ARR at 1. Now what we can do, we can print the values. The sum of values present in array 1 is %d \n, and then you pass in the value ARR1 sum. Fine, everyone. Do you agree with this program? Do you have any doubts with this program? What I'm doing here? So what is the doubt? If you have any doubts, please tell me. Pragati, do you have any doubts? Great. Fine. So let's go ahead and run this function. And the sum of values present in the array is 55. So what is the sum of values from 1 to 1 to 10? You know the formula n into n plus 1 by 2. So it will be 10 into 11 by 2, which is 55. So this confirms that our function is correct. Everyone, do you agree? Fine. Now let's say I have another array containing 10 elements. I again want to find the sum of the elements in that array. So what can you do? Now let's say we did not have this function. Then what would you do? You would write these lines. So 3 lines again for doing that sum. Fine. One is declaring the sum variable, then running the loop and adding up, accumulating the sum of the variables into the sum of values in the array into the variable sum. Now, since we have a function, we don't need to write these 3 lines. Instead, we can simply call the function again to get the sum. Fine. So this is how functions are useful in C. So you don't need to call them again and again. You don't need to write program sections again and again. Fine. So now what I have done here is I have declared a function. I have called the function again, array sum again here, onto a separate different array, which is array2. Fine. Is this clear, everyone? So this is how you can reuse functions in C programs. So whenever you need to do some complex computations containing multiple lines, you can simply write a function and use it again and again until whatever number of times you want to do. Fine. So you can see the sum of values present in array 1 is 55. The sum of values present in array 2 is 53. So we just using 2 lines, we were able to find the sum of 2 separate arrays containing 10 elements each. Fine. Which would require 6 lines if we want to do this without using functions. Fine, everyone. If you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. Am I audible? Am I audible? Anyone? Great. So I guess no one has any doubts in this program. So let's solve the last program for this session and then I'll take up your queries. So this last program requires you to do matrix vector multiplication. Fine. So now let's say we have a matrix. Fine. Now let's say we have a matrix of dimensions 3 by 3. So we have matrix A of dimensions 3 by 3. And then we have a vector BE, a vector X of dimensions 3 cross 1. Fine. Now you want to compute the value A multiplied by X. So this is basically matrix vector multiplication. It will give you a vector on output 3 cross 1 dimension. Fine. So let's see how this matrix A looks like. So you want to store this matrix in a 2-dimensional array in C. So it has 3 rows and 3 columns. So let's create this matrix. And then we have a vector of dimensions 3 cross 1. So you have 3 rows, and so you can store this using a single array in C. And then, so this is the matrix A, this is the vector X, and you want to get the sum, get their product B. Fine. So AX equals to B. So B will be another vector having 3 entries, 3 cross 1. So how to write a C program to do this? So the first step you need to do is store A. So how can you store a 2D array? Use 2D arrays here. How to store X? It is 1D array. Again, how to store the output V? It is again 1D array. Fine, everyone. Now let's look for the logic for writing this program. So let us consider A as an array of dimensions, 3 rows and 3 columns. And we declare the output vector B as3 cos 3, X is a vector containing 3 elements, and B is a vector containing 3 elements. So this is an array. So now we are back to C notation. Now we have ensured we have stored all the values into the C arrays. Now we want to do the matrix vector multiplication. So now what will the value at the cell I, at the row I, at index I in the vector B? Fine. So for this, so let's say this is index I. So we know what will be the output here. It will be A at, so sorry. Yeah. So A at row and this. So A at row I, comma 0 into multiplied by X at index I plus A at row I, comma 1 multiplied by index X at I, X at 1, X at 0. So it index X at 0, then index X at 1 plus A at index I, comma 2 into X at index 2. Fine. So this will be the output. This will be the array value at B at index B at I. Everyone, do you agree with this? So I hope you all are familiar with this matrix vector product. You all are familiar with matrix product. So basically, whenever you want to compute a value here, you do take the row from the matrix and the column from the vector, and you get the answer. Do the dot product between them and you get the answer. Everyone, are you familiar with this logic? Are you familiar with the logic for matrix vector product? Now, if you are familiar, then we can proceed with solving these problems. And the question is, why would we need this? Why do we need to basically create vectors, matrices, stored vectors and matrices in C and then do the solutions? There are multiple applications in computer vision processing. So in image processing applications where you store the images and add multi-dimensional array of multi-dimensional arrays, and then you can do operation on those images. For example, identifying whether some text, handwritten text, identifying the alphabets from handwritten text or facial recognition systems. In those systems, you need to store these space images as multi-dimensional arrays. Fine. So now, are you familiar with this matrix vector product, everyone? How I am storing matrices and vectors in C and how I am doing matrix vector product? I'm not getting any outputs from you guys. So am I audible? Anyone please confirm? This is the hello. Am I audible? Anyone please confirm? Great. So now this means you guys are familiar with this question, this logic. So let's solve the problem programmatically. So let's include stdio dot h. and then void main. And now first what we will do. So let's see. Ri- Write a C program to compute matrix vector product. Fine. So let's first start representing our matrices and vectors in our program. So I have integer array A, multi-dimensional array of dimensions 3, comma 3, and let's give the values to this array as. So first array contains the value 1, comma 2, comma 3, first row. The second row contains the values 2, comma 3, comma 4, and the third row contains the value 3, comma 4, comma 5. So this is the matrix A. Let's declare the vector X, which is an three-dimensional vector. So now let's assign the value to this vector. Let's call it 1, 2, 1. And then let's create the output vector B, where we will be receiving the value. Fine. So now we have declared all of the required vectors and matrices in our program. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So let me just do one thing. Let me share my screen. Screen. So on the left hand side, you will see the matrix representation on how my vectors look like, with matrices and vectors look like. So A looks like this. First row contains the values 1, 2, 3. The second row contains the values 2, 3, 4. And the third row contains the values 3, 4, 5. And then the vector X contains the values 1, 2, 1. And then you want to do this matrix vector product and store in the vector B. So what will be the output? Let's do the calculation mathematically and see the output, and then we'll compare this output with the output from our function. So 1 into 1 plus 2 into 2, so 4 plus 1, 5 plus 3 into 1, 8 comes here. Then 2 into 1 plus 3 into 2, 6 plus 2, 8, and plus 4, 12. Then 3 into 1 plus 8, 11, plus 5, 16. Fine. So we should get the output 8, 12, 16 into the matrix B. So let's see. Let's call the function matrix vector the product. Let's pass in the matrix and the vector A and X. And then let's print the values present in the matrix vector B. So I is less than 3, I plus plus. And let's printf the output of matrix product is backslash n. Fine. Let's run the loop and print the contents of the matrix vector B. So you need to print percentage %b, comma, and then you print the value b at I. Fine. After we have done printing, we can simply change the line and fine, printf. Fine. So now the only part that we need to figure out in our function is the matrix function, matrix vector product A. Fine. So let's write the body of this function. Fine. So yeah, first thing I want to tell you guys is we can't return vectors directly from C functions, and that would require some higher higher, more complex logics involving pointers that I want to ignore for now. So let's do one thing. Let's not return any value from the function. Let's print the output of the matrix vector product onto the screen. from the function itself. Fine. So let us create the function void and then call the function name matrix vector product and then pass in the matrices and matrix A and the vector X whose matrix vector product we want to compute. Now in this we can declare the vector B. Fine. We have declared the vector B and then we can do this printing stuff where we want to print the entries of this output vector P. Fine. So before this, we need to write up the logic. Logic for matrix vector product. Fine. So let's see if our program runs till now. If it runs, then we are on the right track. So let's compile it. Yeah. Fine. So yeah. So I guess there is some issue in passing the two-dimensional vector. So let's see. So how to pass 2D matrix, sorry, 2D arrays in C function. So whenever you have such doubts, you need to look into the documentations. So let us see. Acha, you need to define the rows and columns. Fine. So you need to define. So for two-dimensional vectors, you need to define the size of the vectors. Fine. So we know that we have 3 by 3 vector. So this should work. You can see there is no issue with our program. So now what I have to do, I just have to write the logic for matrix vector product. Fine. So let's start doing this. We already saw the solution. Where was it? The solution is this. So you have to loop through for int I equals to 0, I is less than 3, I plus plus. So you have to loop through all the entries of the array B. And now you have to assign the value B at I equals to. So I can just, so just let me do one thing. B at I equals to, just write in this logic I at 0 into X at 0 plus A at I comma 1 into X at 1 plus A at I comma 2 into X at 2. Fine. So this is how you get the write the logic for matrix vector product. Now let's run the program. And you see the output is 8, 12, and 16. So everyone, can you see that our output is correct? The matrix vector product returns the value 8, 12, and 16. Everyone, can you confirm this? Fine. Now, if you have any doubts in the programs that we discussed today, you can type in the chat box. Officially, the session is over from my side. Fine. Everyone, anyone, if you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. So this was it for this session. Fine.